This is great. Thank you very much. I'm going to talk about kindergarten cities. I think we can make a huge impact on our cities if we tap into our inner 5-year-olds. And at times, we may need to tap into our inner Mozarts. And at other times, we might need to tap into our inner rock stars. A little bit of background first. The World Health Organization conducted a study, and it revealed that in 1910, roughly 2 out of every 10 people on the planet lived in urban areas. If we move forward 100 years, in 2010, this number jumps to 5, or slightly more than 5 out of every 10 people live in urban areas. And if we project forward to the year 2050, we'll have roughly 7 out of 10 people living in urban areas 35 years from now. We're going to face some serious challenges, but I think we can tackle those things. Things like services, housing, infrastructure, and transportation. I'm willing to trust that there are really smart, engaged, creative, problem-solving minded people like urban planners and engineers, elected officials, who are already tackling these things or will be tackling them as they come along. So my real concern, or my thinking is, how do we make sure that these places, these cities, are really vibrant and alive? And I think we need to revisit the methods and philosophy of Friedrich Froebel, a German scientist who in 1837 invented kindergarten. I believe we need kindergarten cities. So let's talk about a few of these things. Let's talk about urban and what urban means. Urban, I think, means mostly the explicit things within a city. Things like the architecture, the scale, the population density, the transportation systems. Those things make a city feel and function like a city. But there's another term that we see or hear quite a bit when it comes to urban renewal, and that term is metropolitan. And so whereas urban brings with it the explicit things about a city, metropolitan brings with it more of the implicit or the emotional elements within a city, the kinds of experiences that make up a modern urban culture. And this idea of culture becomes really important. And when we speak about culture in city environments, we see 2 things. There's a real value in creativity, and there's a real value placed in a variety of interconnected ideas, people, and experiences. And so that brings us back to the teachings of Froebel in kindergarten. His system was used to educate an unbelievably great list of creative minds. People like designer Charles Eames, Albert Einstein, architect Frank Lloyd Wright. It's often associated with these wooden blocks, these geometric objects, but really the underpinning to this system was engaging kids in playful activities, things like dancing and music and singing and gardening and nature walks. It was also a system that created a sense of appreciation for the wider universe. And within that universe, things like rhythm and unity and interconnectedness became important. And so if we see these in the early system of kindergarten, we can correlate those fairly closely to things that we talk about and hear about today. Things like collaboration, diversity, and community. And so if we accept these things as part of a really valuable set of criteria to make our urban areas come to life, all we really need to do at this point is add the playful activities. So how do we do this quickly? I believe we can take the overlooked, forgotten, everyday spaces in our cities and create a sense of community. And we can do those initiatives in ways that don't require a lot of time, effort, or money. It can be as simple as sidewalks and street corners, or in this case, a parking lot. And I would like to share 2 examples tonight of initiatives in my hometown of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, that I think have done a pretty good job of addressing this kind of playful activity within the community. Both of them were produced by a nonprofit grassroots group called Music for Everyone, or MFE. And they've created 2 initiatives that have really engaged people at street level. The first initiative is called Keys for the City. And Lancaster City is now claiming to be the street piano capital of the world. They put pianos on the streets every summer. They've been doing this for 5 years in a row. And I figured out this morning, because I really was questioning whether or not they have a legitimate claim to the street piano capital of the world. So the per capita number of pianos in Lancaster, if New York City did what Lancaster does per capita, we would have seen 9,880 pianos in the streets of New York in the past 5 years. So Lancaster is really doing a good job. I think they have a pretty good claim on street piano capital of the world. And it's basically this very simple exercise. Lots of people have pianos that they simply don't know how to move, and they're willing to donate them. If you see a listing for a few $100s, if you tell them that it's going to this initiative, they forget all the money. If you can get it out of their place and get it on the street, you're welcome to it. So kids to professionals design and decorate and paint these pianos, and they end up on the streets. They're out May through September, 24/7. Doesn't matter what the weather does. There are tarps connected to the backs. Residents and passersby simply flip the tarps over them, protect them from the elements. Next person who comes along who wants to play takes the tarp off, piano's ready to go. This particular piano, I love the design of this. The eyes and a few other elements on this were painted with glow-in-the-dark paint, so even at night, these giant eyes kind of peer out from the park that it's in. Sidewalks become performance halls. Pass-by spaces become gathering spots. And sidewalks and parking lots become amphitheaters. The city becomes a destination, and in the case of Lancaster, tens of thousands of people have visited and played pianos. It's an incredible undertaking. Another thing that happened with this initiative is it also engaged other community groups. One of the groups was a design organization that helped with the logistics and the design and the first round of getting the pianos actually on the street and decorated and painted. And in this case, this image is of the local AIA architecture chapter, which held a design charrette to have the architects design a shelter for one of the pianos. About 40 people attended from a few dozen firms. And this shelter comes to life. And the shelter is in one of the main parks as people make their way into the city. And it becomes this visible signal that the city is alive and something interesting is happening. It's this kind of a welcome sign that everyone is welcome. Now, the next project I'm going to share, this is one of my favorite projects. And this came about from a student who came into class and off the cuff made this comment of, I was at this garage sale, man, and this guy, he had a guitar stand there, but he already sold the guitar, so I went over and I said, how much for the air guitar? Yeah, air guitars, right? Air guitars. This is super easy to do, and everyone loves it. You need cardboard boxes, some paint, some tape, and you weight it down in the bottom row with some gallons of water. Really simple, super basic. You also need a guitar stand. You don't need the guitar. This is air guitars. Super inexpensive, and everyone will do it. Set up 4 stations for 2 hours, and everyone who comes within 20 feet of these things has to play air guitar. They're not required, but there's something about playing air guitar in the streets that everybody has to start playing. It's amazing. Everyone finds they're in a rock star. 483 people played air guitar in just a 2-hour period of time. And in the social media age, add a hashtag to this, thousands more participated virtually during the event, and then it had life past the event. Attach community groups and corporate sponsors, and lots of money can be raised in a 2-hour period of time to fund music education. City residents and visitors have a blast. Music programs have more vibrant education, and the city comes to life. So in closing, I'd like to visit a statistic. This time it's from the Pew Research Center, which based on data from the United Nations found that in the year 2050, the world's population is estimated to be 9.6 billion. If we revisit the initial statistic from the World Health Organization, that 7 out of 10 people will be living in cities in 2050, 6.7 billion people will be populating our cities in the year 2050. That's a lot of people to keep happy. So how are we going to keep them happy? We're going to keep them happy by doing things like this. Let's design creative experiences that make people want to dance and sing and smile. I love this photo. This is totally unscripted. Literally everyone in this photo is smiling. They're having a blast. This is at one of the street level events. Let's revisit the lessons of kindergarten. And most importantly, let's build kindergarten cities, renew our urban areas, and reconnect with the playful activities we learned as 5-year-olds. Thank you.